Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer of James Clear's absolute game changer of a book, Atomic Habits. If you've ever felt just totally frustrated trying to change your routines, what we're going to unpack today is going to completely flip the script on how you look at personal growth. Clear has this one foundational premise that kind of changes everything. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Think about it. Just like money multiplies through compounding, the effects of your habits multiply as you repeat them over time. Good habits? They make time your greatest ally. Bad habits, they turn time into your absolute worst enemy. So today, we're breaking down the 10 most vital lessons from Clear's work to show you exactly how to transform your behavior from the ground up. So what if the reason you keep failing at your goals has literally nothing to do with a lack of motivation? What if it's actually just a math problem? For decades, we've all eagerly bought into this myth, right? This idea that we need massive, unbreakable discipline to change our lives. We think we need a personality transplant or superhuman willpower. Well, this explainer completely debunks that myth. It turns out, changing your trajectory isn't about monumental, dramatic leaps of faith. Instead, it's really just a matter of compounding tiny, almost invisible daily actions. To really master these 10 lessons, we're going to move swiftly through 5 key phases. We'll start with the math of tiny changes, shift into identity over outcomes, dissect the mechanics of change, figure out how to make habits automatic, and finally, learn how to survive the journey when things get tough. All right, phase 1, the math of tiny changes. Let's look at the actual mathematical reality behind true, lasting behavioral shifts. So you're looking at this massive number, 37x. This represents Lesson 1, the 1% rule. And to really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at this brilliant story from the source material about the British cycling team. For nearly 100 years, British cyclists had won almost nothing. They were so notoriously bad that top bike manufacturers actually refused to sell them gear because they were afraid it would hurt their brand. Wild, right? Then they hired this guy, Dave Brailsford. He believed in a concept called the aggregation of marginal gains. They didn't aim for these sweeping overhauls. Instead, they broke down literally everything that goes into riding a bike and improved it by just 1%. I'm talking redesigning the bike seats for comfort, rubbing alcohol on tires for better grip, testing different massage gels for faster recovery. They even hired a surgeon to teach riders how to properly wash their hands to avoid catching a cold. By the 2008 and 2012 Olympics, British cycling absolutely dominated the world. That is the brutal, inspiring math in action. If you get just 1% better every day for a single year, those tiny improvements compound, and you end up 37 times better by the end of the year. The gap between massive success and failure isn't talent. It's simply the direction of your tiny, repeated choices. Which leads us right into Lesson 2, the critical difference between goals and systems. We live in a heavily goal-obsessed culture. But think about a messy room. If you have a messy bedroom and you summon the immense energy to clean it, you're going to have a clean room, for now. But if you maintain the exact same sloppy, disorganized habits that led to the mess in the first place, it's going to be a disaster again in 3 days. You treated a symptom without treating the underlying cause. Goals are just the destination. They're the scoreboard. And if you only stare at the scoreboard, you aren't actually playing the game. The winners and losers in any field generally have the exact same goals. Every single Olympian wants the gold medal, right? The goal doesn't separate them. What separates them is their daily system. It all boils down to this infamous, completely perspective-shifting realization. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. I really want you to let that sink in for a second. Take whatever major, life-changing goal you're chasing right now, stop fixating on the finish line and reverse engineer it into a repeatable daily or weekly system. Your daily execution is literally the only thing that actually matters. Moving on to phase 2, identity over outcomes. We're shifting from the math of habits into what is arguably the deepest, most profound psychological concept presented in Clear's work. For Lesson 3, I want you to imagine behavior change like peeling an onion with 3 distinct layers. Most people try to change from the outside in. They start with the outermost layer, the outcome. I want to lose 20 pounds. That leads to the middle layer, the process. Okay, I'll force myself to go to the gym 4 days a week. But true, lasting behavior change must happen from the inside out. It has to start at that fundamental innermost core, your identity. It's about what you actually believe about yourself. Notice the stark difference in how these two phrases frame reality. I want to run a marathon is entirely outcome-based, but I am a runner is identity-based. The source uses a brilliant analogy here. Every single action you take is essentially casting a vote for the type of person you believe you are. If you choose a glass of water over a soda, you're casting a vote for the identity of a healthy person.
When you decide who you want to be, you completely eliminate the constant need for pure, exhausting willpower. Why? Because if you truly believe you are a runner, going for a run isn't this terrible chore you have to white-knuckle your way through. It's simply what a runner does. Decide the identity first, cast those tiny votes, and the behavior will naturally follow.
Let's jump into phase 3, the mechanics of change. Now that we understand the math and the psychology, let's turn mysterious, often frustrating human behavior into a highly solvable engineering problem. This brings us to lesson 4. Every single action we take throughout our day is governed by a core 4-step framework: cue, craving, response, and reward. Think about how many times you check your phone. The cue, your phone buzzes in your pocket. The craving, you want to feel connected, or, maybe you just want a quick distraction from work. The response, you pull out the phone and unlock it. The reward, you read a text message and get a tiny hit of dopamine. That entire loop takes maybe 3 seconds, and it runs hundreds of times a day, completely in the background. If any of these 4 steps are broken or missing, a behavior will simply not become a habit. Out of that neurological loop comes Clear's famous 4 laws of behavior change. You can really consider this your ultimate cheat sheet for the human brain. If you want to build a good habit, you must make the cue obvious, make the craving attractive, make the response easy, and make the reward satisfying. Let's actually make this real right now. Think of a good habit you are actively avoiding or failing to build. Diagnose it. Is it just not obvious enough? Is the task too hard? Whichever law is missing from this checklist is the exact structural problem you need to solve. That leads us to phase 4, making habits automatic. Because how exactly do we put these newly engineered laws on autopilot so they run without us agonizing over them every day? Lesson 5 makes a case that is incredibly simple yet wildly effective. The source cites this fascinating study conducted at a hospital cafeteria in Boston. Researchers wanted to improve the eating habits of thousands of staff and visitors without ever talking to them. So what did they do? They simply changed the environment. They added water bottles to the refrigerators that previously only held soda, and they placed baskets of bottled water throughout the room. Over the next few months, soda sales absolutely plummeted, and water sales skyrocketed. Nobody was lectured. 0 willpower was required. The environment simply made the healthier choice the most obvious one. Discipline is a fragile, easily depleted resource, but designing your physical spaces, that works automatically. If you want to eat healthier, you don't need more grit. You just need to hide the junk food in the pantry and put a big bowl of apples right in the middle of the kitchen counter. Now, lesson 6 gives us the incredibly powerful tool of habit stacking. Neurologically speaking, your brain built strong, highly efficient pathways for things you do every single day. So instead of trying to invent a brand new time slot in your credit schedule, you use this formula. After my current habit, I will do my new habit. Basically, you hitch a ride on an established neural pathway. You borrow the momentum of something you already do mindlessly, like brewing your morning coffee or brushing your teeth, and use it as the trigger for the new behavior. For example, after I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 1 single minute. It creates an immediate, almost unbreakable link. Next up is lesson 7, which is honestly the absolute ultimate antidote to the "I don't have time" or "it's too hard" excuses. The 2-minute rule. We usually avoid starting because the friction of the entire task just feels totally daunting. So you eliminate the friction. You shrink your massive goal down into a starter step that takes 2 minutes or less. Read a book a week becomes read 1 page. Do a grueling 45-minute workout becomes put on my gym shoes and tie the laces. The goal here isn't to get immediate massive results. It is to master the art of showing up. A habit must be established before it can be improved. So master the entry ritual first. All right, phase 5, surviving the journey. Because the reality of building habits isn't always smooth sailing, and we need to know how to navigate the very real moments when progress seems completely stalled. To really grasp lesson 8, imagine an ice cube sitting on a table in a freezing cold room. The room is 25 degrees. You slowly heat it to 26, 27, 28, nothing happens. 29, 30, 31 degrees, the ice cube is still frozen solid. You might think all your effort is completely wasted, right? But at 32 degrees, it suddenly melts. That massive, visible transformation wasn't caused by that single 1-degree shift. It was the result of all the latent potential building up quietly from 25 degrees onward. This is what Clear calls the plateau of latent potential, or sometimes the valley of disappointment. If you are putting in the roughs and your habits aren't showing massive results yet, you are not failing. The work isn't wasted. You're just still at 30 degrees. The energy is being stored up. And when you inevitably stumble during that long journey, you need lesson 9, the rule of resilience.
Never miss twice. Perfection is an illusion, but resilience is mandatory. Look, missing a habit one day is just an accident of daily life, but missing it 2 days in a row, that is the immediate start of a brand new bad habit. This concept completely reframes setbacks for us. Your focus should stop being on feeling guilty and shift entirely to building a lightning-fast recovery system. If you skip the gym on Monday because work ran late, don't spiral. Just let it go and make absolutely sure that Tuesday's workout happens.
To wrap up the specific lessons, Lesson 10 reveals the dark side of our cheat sheet. It shows us how to destroy the bad routines in our lives by simply inverting the 4 laws. To break a bad habit, you make it invisible, make it unattractive, make it difficult, and make it unsatisfying. Relying on willpower to resist late-night TV or endless scrolling is just completely exhausting. Instead, add friction. If you want to stop watching so much television, make it difficult. Unplug the TV and put the batteries for the remote in a drawer after every single use. If you want to stop scrolling in bed, make it invisible by leaving the charger in the kitchen. Make your bad habits a massive hassle, and they will naturally wither away. So this brings us to the ultimate question you have to ask yourself right now. What is the 2-minute version of the person you want to become today? We've learned that massive success doesn't come from huge leaps, but from tiny 1% compounded changes. We know that casting votes for our identity drives behavior, and that intelligently designing our environment beats discipline every single time. Absolutely none of this requires you to be a superhero. It just requires you to pick one tiny 2-minute action. So what's your new habit going to be? Start casting those votes for your new identity right now.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. It means the world to me that you're here and part of this book-loving community. If you love this video, please hit the like button. It helps others find the channel. And don't forget to subscribe for more book discussions, deep dives, and all book things literature. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments and connect. And if you know someone who'd love this content, please share it with them. Sharing is caring, and it's how our little community grows. Until next time, happy reading!